BArcadians, and welcome to another episode of Gaming News Weekly. But as we did in the last show, if you tuned in, we're going to kind of remix the usual docket. We're not going to cover off anything topical necessarily. This is actually going to be like a forward, a look ahead towards 2022 in the games industry. And we've got 5 discussion points, which Rich has very nicely put together for us. And we're going to kind of compare and contrast our different opinions and share them with you. Neither of us know, we've kept it a surprise from each other, what we're going to nominate for each category. For example, we've got what are we most excited for in 2022 and so on. So please give us a like if you haven't already. We really do appreciate it and it helps to support us on the channel. Let us know in the comments what your picks are for each category as we go through them. We'd love to hear from you. But Rich, why don't you kick us off with the first topic?
You don't want to discuss what we've been playing this week?
Nah.
No? Okay.
No, go on then, tell me what you've been playing. Yeah, of course, actually we should, because I've got exciting news on that front.
Exactly, yeah. So quite a busy gaming week for me this week. So a bit of Farming Simulator. Me and Tabs have dived in Farming Simulator 19, or when I say me and Tabs, I've begged and pleaded and forced Tabs into playing Farming Simulator with me, which we've been playing a bit. I'm really enjoying like the sedate pace of it. It's quite a chilled out game. I think Tabs maybe doesn't really like that about it. It's very one-dimensional and quite just city building type sort of pace what I quite like. I've also been playing a game on my iPad actually, which is like I think it's called.
He's becoming a casual BArcadians.
No, I basically got bought a game for Christmas on the iPad, and it's a game where you like find things, do puzzles. There's a story about some demons that are trying to, become the ultimate demons. And actually, it's been really fun to play with the missus, which has been quite cool. We actually finished that this afternoon. Didn't take too long, couple of 2 or 3 evenings, which that's been quite fun. And we've also been playing Ring Fit Adventure on the Switch, which has actually been quite good fun, actually. It's actually quite a good workout, so that's been quite enjoyable. We've set the levels on that fairly high, so it's a decent workout. So yeah, full of gaming now. I've got a bit of time off work, so that's really good. Tabs, enough about me. What have you been playing?
Well, yeah, as you point out, mate, Farming Simulator with you. I'm not as down on it as you make out.
Okay.
I just think at the minute, yeah, it's quite flat. It's relaxing, but I can't play it for long periods of time because it's very, I'm literally just harvesting a field or, ploughing a field. And it just feels there's not as much kind of gamification in the conceits around it as you used to from video games that keep you incentivized, that keep you, coming back for more. No, it's nice to chat with you. It's kind of a relaxing thing to do, but short bursts for me is very much the way to go with that. And apart from that, I've been absolutely, speaking of games that do draw you in, compel you to play them, Inscription. So obviously Rich gave me some jip, BArcadians, if you did tune into the last episode, because I shared Inscription as a potential. What was the category, Rich? Like unsung hero of 2021?
Yes, and I was like, you've not played it though. So I basically said I'd chosen games that I'd played. I thought that was the right thing to do, but then you hadn't. So you fixed that.
Yeah, backhanded shots fired, that one. So I fixed that, downloaded it on Steam, been playing it. I wouldn't want to spoil it for anyone, but this is definitely one of my best games that I've played in 2021.
Wow.
It Takes Two, still such a magical experience because of the nature of it, and given it was in lockdown and we got to play sort of a couch co-op game, but not couch co-op. But this is just so inventive. Like, it constantly reinvents itself. It's got a really addictive base mechanic in the fact that it's a card game, but then there's all this kind of meta, crazy, clever, Kojima-esque ideas going on around that constantly just surprise you. There's not many games where you could probably film my face as I'm playing it, and it you'll see often a look of amazement or of confused joy in what it's actually delivering to you. So already got my brother-in-law Carl to download it. So I'm working on you, mate, and anybody else out there. Inscription, I think I got it for £17 on Steam. Bit of a discount at the minute. Well worth your time if you can get over the fact it's a card game and it changes a lot. So don't get too comfortable. But Rich, that's enough banging on.
Absolutely.
Anything else you want to say to our audience before we get going?
No, I'm happy to proceed with this interesting New Year's special.
Yeah, so I suppose it's just kind of a bit of a hype train episode. We've used that in the past on the channel just to get us excited for what looks to be an absolutely bountiful 2022. And yeah, for that reason, I don't think there's been plenty to choose from. We're almost paralysed by choice in these categories, I would say, mate. But why don't you introduce the first one, mate, since you came up with them all?
Sounds good. So the first topic that I chose was game you are most excited for in 2022. And there's just as Tabs just mentioned, there's a big breadth of games out there. So what did you go for, Tabs?
Yeah, this was a funny one because I would say it depends how you ask me the question. But in a nutshell, right, in theory, I'm most excited for Breath of the Wild 2. Because Breath of the Wild is probably one of my favourite games of all time, as you well know. And BArcadians who visit the channel frequently know as well. The issue is we've not seen a lot of it so far. So it's difficult for me to kind of place that outside of theory. So I thought what I would do, I'm ever the pragmatist and very practical. Thought I really wanted to actually answer this with something I can really base stuff on. And my pick was Horizon Forbidden West, which you may feel, and any Nintendo fans, is sacrilege. But I just thought we have seen quite a bit from them, and we continue to get drip feeds, and it just keeps looking better and better and better. It feels like, it kind of felt like it was second fiddle to Breath of the Wild because they obviously overlapped quite a bit when they first came out. And I think personally, Breath of the Wild was the bigger masterpiece. I still really liked Horizon Zero Dawn. Hopefully the missus isn't in earshot. But yeah, I feel like everything we're seeing, it seems like they've capitalised on all that potential maybe in Horizon Zero Dawn that they didn't quite deliver on, especially in light of Breath of the Wild. So yeah, super excited for this. And yeah, just can't wait, mate. But am I close to yours or am I way away?
Interestingly, and it's interesting that the game you're most excited for next year has taken, in my opinion, quite a lot of cues from like our favourite game of all time. You could argue there's some direct rip-offs of Breath of the Wild. So that is very interesting. So that's the first one. And this is a difficult one for me because, as Tabs mentioned, you've got the new Horizon, potentially God of War Ragnarok, Hogwarts Legacy looks brilliant, Elden Ring, and then, of course, there's the possibility that Breath of the Wild 2 will drop next year. I'm not so sure on that one. There's certainly some suggestion that it will drop late in the year, sort of November at any rate, hopefully. But actually, mine are none of these. My most excited game in 2022 is Gran Turismo 7.
It was literally on my lips. I thought, do I interrupt him here and try and guess? But no, brilliant. As
much as I'm super excited for all of them games, and certainly some of them games, Horizon being one, is going to come out before Gran Turismo 7, I'm just super excited to get into a proper legit Gran Turismo with the old cars, the proper races, and obviously there will be to come some multiplayer action on that, which again, I've got into quite a lot with GT Sport. And I've currently been looking at potentially sort of a racing simulation rig with the seats that will go alongside that. So that's obviously also like hyping up my thoughts toward Gran Turismo 7. So yeah, that's the game I'm so excited for at the moment, albeit there will be, say, Horizon coming before that. But yeah, that's going to be the one I'm most excited for next year. As we stand, we don't know where some of these other games are going to come. So yeah, interesting, completely different.
That rig you sent then, mate, the £300 one, is that the one you're seriously considering?
At the moment, so space is a little bit tight. I'm hoping to fit it in the gaming room here, so it's sort of out of the way and it's set up all the time, so I haven't got to get my steering wheel out, put it away and stuff, which I've sort of fancy over and above just a sort of a steering and pedal rack, one with a seat. I like that idea, and that's a good size in terms of the overalls to fit in the room. So, and obviously it has a nice cost to it, as opposed to some of them are like £700-800. So at the moment, that's what I'm thinking. But we'll have to see how we go. It's not in stock anywhere at the moment. So, albeit I've got till March, I think, anyway, for Gran Turismo. So yeah,
that would be awesome, mate. That I hope for you, for your sake, that GT7 lives up to. It does seem to be pointing towards like a proper re-entry for the Gran Turismo franchise, doesn't it? We've talked about it like that kind of career mode. They're going full bore for it, and it's going to be perhaps the biggest and best we've seen yet. So
hopefully,
fantastic.
But do you want to take us on to the next topic? Or the next
Indeed.
heading?
So you came with the second one, which was and all of the rest of them as well.
I was going to say, I'd like to point out that Tabs keeps pushing the blame on all of these topics, just in case people aren't happy with them. It's Rich
it's
did
the
all
opposite. I'm trying to remember to give you credit for the fact that I often write some of the stuff that we do for our news, for example. And I just want to make sure that you're not left out, mate, and you get the proper credit.
That.
I thought they were brilliant. They're all brilliant. I'm not trying to rubbish them away. But anyway, so it is one to watch in 2022. So one that perhaps isn't on everybody's radar, but it could offer and really surprise us with something special. I'm guessing that was what you were going with on that.
Exactly, yeah.
So you kick us off this time. I'm torn between two, so it will influence me what you say, I think.
So I'll be honest, I've gone way off piste here, and a lot of people could argue that mine is not even gaming related. But my one to watch in 2022 is The Last of Us TV series. I think that could be masterpiece. It's got some really great actors in it, some really great people involved. We know that the people who made The Last of Us, his name escapes me. What's his name, Tabs?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Escapes me too. From The Mandalorian.
No, the chap who actually did The Last of Us.
Oh, Druckmann.
Yes.
Neil Druckmann.
We know he's been heavily involved in it, and that suggests that we're going to see something really cool. I know it's not a game, but the trouble with next year for me is there's too many games that are already looking like blockbusters. So how do you then go, well, what's the one to really watch next year? I mean, you could argue Breath of the Wild 2 maybe is in that because we know so little about it. But for me, I'm super excited for that. I think it could be really, really epic. And we've already seen some fairly good TV crossovers. So that's my one to watch. Bit out there, but there we go. I'm sure you've got a little bit more ordinary, shall we say, Tabs?
Well, considering, mate, yours is kind of an invalid entry, in my opinion, on the basis of the genre, I'm going to say kind of both of mine then, just because to fill in the blank. So my first instinct was to go with Forspoken.
Okay.
So previously, was it Project Athia, I think it was called? And the reason being, I know it hit pretty hard in the trailer and what we've seen so far, but it does seem to be sitting. Obviously, we've got the headliners like Forbidden West, Breath of the Wild 2, God of War in 2022, but it feels like it's under the radar a little bit. So I thought it perfectly fitted ones to watch, and also because I feel like it's one of the first in likely what will be a slew, especially the back half of next year, of truly next-gen games that have really been built from the ground up, at least I think, with next-gen in mind. So I think that this one specifically, it was, from what we've seen, it's very reminiscent of what we originally saw with the first Unreal Engine 5 trailer. And I would guess it's really going to make use of, the SSD technology that we know both Xbox and Sony have invested in. So, definitely a one to watch from me. We don't know loads about it. I think we know little bits. And from what we have seen, I'm certainly not put off. It could very easily be a miss and not a hit. But I thought it fit that category quite nice there. And the second one, the follow-up, the reason why I wasn't sure on this is because I kind of got this in two categories, is Starfield.
Oh,
so again, one to watch because I think as well, you could probably put this in three categories that you've got down because we're not sure if it will land in 2022. But given, again, big Skyrim fan, we mentioned it last week, kind of Skyrim in space is what we're expecting from this at the very least. And yeah, if they can deliver anything close to Skyrim, evolve that experience, and we know finally the shackles are off on the engine that Bethesda have been reusing, recycling for many games now, and they've really got a chance to push their technology and do something special with this. And there's been a lot of kind of murmurs around it. Odd Howard, ever the salesman as he is, has come out and said really positive things about perhaps how kind of cataclysmic this is going to be in terms of the gaming landscape. So yeah, one to watch for sure. But yeah, any comments on that, mate?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head with my apparently invalid answer, which I do take that point on board, to be fair. It's hard to know where to go with that one. That's why I guess why I've gone a bit odd with my choice.
You have been judged by the Eye of Sauron.
Nice. So next up, if you don't mind me taking the lead, is best looking new IP that could launch in 2022. Now, obviously, we've got a lot throughout this year. We've had a lot of games that have been dated for 2022. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to launch in 2022. We've seen that multiple times with games. But what did you put for this, Tabs?
Well, this was one of the ones that I thought Starfield could appear in again, but obviously because I've just used that, I'm going to go for Elden Ring.
Okay,
so, of
nice.
course, it is a brand new IP.
Absolutely.
We know George R.R. Martin's been involved in the narrative. Obviously, it's a very Souls, Demon Souls, Dark Souls like kind of structure within an open world format, we think. But yeah, certainly, I think there's a lot in there that's fresh and interesting. Obviously, this was in the last video we did as well. Was we do something about the ones we're most excited for? I'm sure we did.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, for me, it looks like it's going to deliver on everything I hope for from this sort of game, and I'm always up for developers and studios trying to be brave, taking a next step with a franchise, with an idea, with a concept, with a genre, and this looks to be doing that. So yeah, that's my excited for new IP. What about you, mate?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. That's a really good choice. I think I'm also very excited for that. But actually, another one that sort of stood out for me this year that I'm excited for hopefully launching next year, which is a new IP, is Little Devil Inside. If you remember, that was the one that we mentioned that almost had
it does look cool.
A Wes Anderson sort of style to it. And I really liked the look of the gameplay and the way that you traversed the land and the way that you interacted with enemies and stuff. I thought it looked really cool and sort of a bit different to anything out there at the moment. So I did think that is one to definitely watch, and I'm really looking forward to hopefully that dropping next year. I think it looks really, really cool.
Big time indie vibes, and then it just looked like it had all sorts of different, I suppose, genres mixed in, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
With the way it was played out, like you got these little scenes and little zones, and then it switches to isometric, and yeah, it does look really cool, that game.
Looks really well thought out, so I thought that was good. So next one, I guess a little bit of a negative one to this one, but what game do we think is most likely to be delayed till 2023? Now, for me, the obvious choice for this one, and Tabs may have put the same, would be God of War Ragnarok. With the fact that we've got so many Sony games releasing early doors this year, Gran Turismo 7, Horizon, that suggests God of War is going to sink to the end of next year, sort of October, November, December time. And at that point, I think potentially it's going to be competing with potentially Breath of the Wild 2, and I'm not sure that they will want to do that. So I personally think that Ragnarok is going to launch more like February 2023. So that's my thoughts on why I think it'll be delayed, and that doesn't take into account whether it's going to be delayed because of production issues or anything like that. I mean, you would probably think maybe not, given the fact it looks like it's using a very similar engine to previous. And it looks like it's fairly well along with the brief things we've seen about it. What have you put here? I suspect you might have put the same, Tabs.
Did have this in the first slot. I've got 2 again. I had
Okay.
this in the first slot because, yeah, as you say, we've not seen that much about it. We know it's back end of the year. We know it's going to be a bumper year, and Sony aren't exactly, I think, desperate to be getting titles out the door. But I think a lot will depend on, supply chain issues, how their year's gone so far. And I think it's going to be a bit of a movable feast, isn't it? Where if things are going well, they've sold enough copies of all their other games, the share prices are looking good. The likelihood is they'll say, don't worry, take a bit more time on it. Let's push into 2023.
Exactly.
Seems to make sense, doesn't it? So I went for, and it's another obvious one, to be honest, mate. We've kind of touched upon it a few times with Breath of the Wild 2.
Yeah. Makes
So
sense.
it feels like it's a similar sort of story, isn't there? We've not seen that much of it. We've heard reports about how affected Nintendo have been through lockdown and, the virus situation in terms of their workflow and productivity. And again, we know Nintendo have a track record for not rushing anything. And I made that comparison at the start of the fact that we've seen so much brilliant stuff and trailers from Horizon Forbidden West. And I feel like there's got to be some sort of like almost camaraderie, because again, they both came out at a similar window, similar types of games. And I feel like Breath of the Wild probably won the day, if you like. They won the battle. And at this point, I'm sure there's going to be some element of measuring the two up against each other, whether we try to avoid that or not. So yeah, I just feel everything is lined up for a potential delay to 2023. I think it will depend, won't it, on what we see in the next trailer. I think Nintendo need a big game, don't they, in 2022?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's going to be interesting what else they've got up their sleeve to perhaps try and cover if that does happen. But yeah, I think that's a good contender for delay in 2022.
And I think you've hit the nail on the head with Horizon. Obviously, Horizon got delayed by, 3 or 4 months. But leading up to its delay, the amount that we'd seen of the game, it was fairly obvious they were showing people playing the game. It might have been mixed into sort of a very, driven trailer and how they wanted it to be and be delivered. It was fairly obvious people were playing the game, whereas we haven't seen anything like that with Breath of the Wild. Now, granted, it's probably like 10, 11 months away from where we think it might release, but I'm surprised we haven't seen anything more fundamental in terms of trailers and things from the game, especially as surely they want to get the hype going on it, although maybe it sells itself. It's hard to know. But yeah, I sort of tend to agree. Go on, Tabs.
Quick tangent, mate. Quick diversion. I was just doing a bit of research for the video, and I noticed that there was a quote. I feel like I've read this before. Maybe we've talked about it before, but let's talk about it again because we love video games. But there was a comparison. Apparently, E.G. Enuma, has said that Red Dead Redemption 2 has been an inspiration behind a Breath of the Wild 2.
Oh, okay.
Which I thought was really interesting. I don't think it was elaborated upon apart from that, but I just wanted to kind of pick your brain on what you think that could mean. The only thing I could think of was like the fact that Red Dead Redemption 2, it loved those emergent moments, didn't it, with NPCs and side missions, which was quite unique, the way they implemented that. But also the way they strangled fast travel, didn't they?
Yes, very true.
And I just wondered if that was maybe what they'll go for with Breath of the Wild 2. A bit more restraint there. But anything else from your perspective?
I mean, my takeaway from Red Dead Redemption 2 was its element of realism with properly having to hunt and kill things, which I know you didn't like so much because it was too immersive. You felt like you were really struggling. But the takeaway from Red Dead for me was it was just a fantastic story. And if they can sort of relive some of the thing, because realistically, if we had to have gripes about the original Breath of the Wild, it was the fact that the story was, practically non-existent. It wasn't fleshed out enough in our opinion. So if they could take some cues of the story of Red Dead and real fat that out so you really care about the characters and stuff with Breath of the Wild 2, then that could be the greatest game of all time.
What about if you have building on... Well, spoilers if you've not played Breath of the Wild, but was it Tarrytown?
Yes, yeah.
What about if you can kind of have your own posse and camp built that you kind of guide through the the whole adventure like Dutch.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, that would be cool, wouldn't it?
That would be really cool, yeah, if they could do something like that. But anyway, enough diversion. Let's move on to the last topic for discussion. Again, credits to Rich. And this was the biggest shock release or announcement of 2022.
Now, I've gone all in here. I've gone all in. I've taken
MGS, Silent Hill. I'm expecting one of the above.
I've taken all the little tidbits of information I've seen on social media platforms, and I've added 1 and 1, and I've got 100. So my shock announcement of 2022 is going to be Silent Hill being produced by Kojima Productions with Norman Reedus.
Interesting, mate. Again, in my research, I stumbled across something. I'm sure it was SkillUp had mentioned something about, is it Blooper Games? Come out and said they're working. Was it the guys behind the Medium have come out and said they're working on a Silent Hill game?
There is, yeah. Well, there's actually, I don't know. Actually, I've not seen that, mate. I know there's this Splitterheads, which is being created by the original people who were behind Silent Hill, which sort of looks a bit. We'll see on that one. But yeah, I don't know. Definitely Kojima is working with Norman Reedus at the minute. I think that's pretty much that's an unkept secret, because we've seen, things have been said. We've seen the mocap going on, and it's pretty obvious Norman Reedus is there. I think Kojima put something on the other day saying he was with Norman Reedus. So he's obviously doing something. Now, it's a big stretch to go from he's doing something with Norman Reedus, bearing in mind he's actually made a game with Norman Reedus in the masterpiece of his Death Stranding. It's more conceivable that they will be working on either some DLC for Death Stranding or Death Stranding 2. However, I'm liking to go way out the envelope and ask for a Silent Hill with Norman Reedus and Kojima Productions. So
love it. I think the whole community would love it as well, just to see them, fulfill on what the promise was of the PT trailer.
I mean, whether we have the balls to play it, if it was ever to come out, that's another story, given how scary PT was. But
that'll be VR.
I know. What about you, Tabs? What's your shock announcement of 2022?
Again, I had 2 just in case as a backup, so I'll let you know what they are, but thankfully you've not chosen either. So the first one, I mean, is it a shock? Potentially. Metroid Prime 4. I thought that might finally come out of the shadows and we'll get to see some sort of a gameplay insight. Well, certainly more than a title screen, which is all we've had originally. We know it's been through development hell. I'd love to see it. I was a big fan of the original Metroid Prime. I think I dabbled with 2. Sort of lost interest as the series progressed. But yeah, I'd love to see what they could do on the Switch. Again, sci-fi, first-person shooter/adventure game. And I love all the Metroid lore. So yeah, that would be a fantastic shock announcement if they can. The other one I had, another number 4 in the series, was Bioshock.
Okay.
So, of course, we know that is being worked on at a pace. Rich and I have discussed staffing adverts, Rich, in our news throughout the year, which kind of point to the sort of game we're expected. The suggestion being, I think, that it's going open world. So, yeah, I feel like we're at a stage where, again, we could get a little teaser at the very least for that as well. So those were sort of shock announcements because, they're not planned in. But I suppose, we're all expecting something to come out of it.
I mean, I have to say, I feel like Nintendo need Metroid Prime 4 to next year. I feel like, I know there's some, I think you mentioned yesterday, there's some potential leaks about Odyssey 2, Mario, obviously, which could be interesting. I just feel like Nintendo need a strong year next year. Apart from the crazy phenomenon that Animal Crossing was, it's hard to say what's been super successful for them this year and that has driven console sales. Now, having said that, the Switch has again sold really well this year, but yeah, I just feel like they need to do something to be involved. I have to say, Metroid Prime is sort of the game they're sort of missing on Switch at the moment. There isn't really, I mean, Doom obviously came out, but that was a long time ago now. They sort of need that kind of game on there. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in that, and that'll be very interesting to see.
I mean, ultimately, mate, you never know. We could finally see the Switch Pro. Rumours were that the OLED model was kind of downsized because of the supply chain issues due to the situation we're in globally. But that would be the ultimate shock of 2022, wouldn't it? Switch Pro announced alongside, Metroid Prime 4 launch, because it always makes sense to do a new piece of hardware delivery alongside a game. They sort of did that OLED model with Dread, didn't they? So,
or potentially,
and then they can delay Zelda till next year.
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say. Or release a Pro for Christmas next year with Breath of the Wild too.
Oh,
I'd definitely be all in with both of those.
Yeah, we'd have to book off a week, wouldn't we, mate, just to do good on it.
Absolutely.
But I think that'll do us for today, BArcadians. Hope you enjoyed it, that little slither and taste of what we're expecting in 2022. As ever, please do give us a shout in the comments. Let us know what your thoughts are and what you thought of our comments and opinions. We hope and wish that everybody watching the channel and those besides have a fantastic year. It's been a bit of a rubbish one, hasn't it? And certainly in the games industry, there's so much promise and potential for 2022. If you loved this video, then as I say, please make sure you subscribe, ring that bell for notifications, and it will help support and grow this channel, this little space where we share our passion and enthusiasm for gaming. Any final thoughts, Rich, before we close this one out?
No, I think we've covered everything off. I wish everyone a happy new year as of sort of tonight, and we hope you all have a great, happy and healthy 2022 and lots of gaming.
Another one for the archives.
Stamped and completed.